Hello and welcome to this video. In this video we will be learning about probability. Probability. So what is probability? The definition of probability is an event. Not specifically an event, but for an event to have a chance in happening or not. And I hope that makes clear sense to you, because it kind of does look hard to understand, sounds hard to understand. And basically what it means, and I'm going to put this in an example here, it's basically when, let's say, something happens or doesn't happen. So you want to get, let's say, you're playing a little game with your friend and you have a dice. Let's do it more, let's make it 3D. And so this is kind of what your dice looks like. Kind of add a 1 here, maybe a 2 here. I don't know. And so basically, if you get 1, then you win. So 1 equals you. Let's just put you win. 1 equals you win. And if he gets 2, I'll just put friend, because it could be anybody. Friend wins. And so what's the probability of you winning? What is the probability of you winning? Well, basically, what I want to do is, it's basically like happening or not happening. So if you don't win, it could be other than 1, it could be like 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, because this is a 6-sided die. So for an event to have a chance in happening or not. So not happening. But if you get it, it happens. So let's actually now put this into a fraction, I'd say. So if, let's say it's not just, let's scratch this out actually. We're not gonna use your friend anymore in this example. Let's say you still, if you landed on a 1, then you get $100. What is the chance of that happening? And so basically, I like to think of this as one event. And this is a 6-sided die, so it's basically like 6 events happening. One event. And 6 events happening. So I would put it as my denominator and my numerator being the 1. And that's how I kind of like to put it. 1 over 6 events, because it is like that. And so that's basically how you put it in a fraction, and it's kind of like probability anyways. And yeah, that's basically what would happen. Let's use another example. Oh, and before that, let's say it was 2 event. If you landed on a 2, and, or no, let's say if you landed on all of them, like, what's the probability of landing on a 1? And we like to write it like this: P, landing on a 1, P for probability, landing on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And well, we add some spaces in there. So what is the probability of this happening? Well, it's all 6 events, so it is 6 out of 6. Okay, now let's move on to our other event. We don't really need this, we'll just go down. Our next event is a coin toss. And this is the best I could do. Kind of make it 3D. There we go. Something like that. I don't know. Oops. There we go. you know what? We could just try and draw it rounder. I'm not that good at drawing around circles. There, just that. And yeah, we don't need 3D. So it'll be like a heads here. I don't know, and a tails on the other side. So this is a heads and then there's a tails. So we're gonna play a game of heads, H for short, or tails with your friend. And if you get heads, here, let me explain the rules. If you win if heads, he wins if tails. And so if he gets, let's say he gets tails, and it's on the other side, well, like, what's the probability of you getting heads first? And the probability, it's 1 event out of 2 events. So it is, oh, my circle came back. I knew it because it got erased for a second. Let's put this away. There we go, something like this. Okay, now the person's kind of wearing a headband. It doesn't matter. Okay, and so what's the probability? Well, 1 out of 2 events. So it's like, so 1 over 2 is a 50% chance. And I forgot to mention that in the other example, but this would be like a 50% chance. Or if you want to write it as a decimal, 0.50. Either way. So it's like half. And it would be the exact same if your friend won. So yeah, and if it was out of, let's say you need to get 2 heads. So if you need to get 2 heads in a row, what is the probability of that happening? Because your friend needs to get 2 tails as well. What is the probability of having 2 heads? And remember, this is called theoretical probability. You haven't done the experiment yet, so it's called theoretical probability, just kind of making an estimate about what would happen. Experimental probability is what you do, is the probability what happens like when you actually test it out. So it could be different. It could be a different chance. And this is a fair coin, by the way. So let's break this apart. What is the probability of you getting 2 heads? Well, 1, 2, 3, 4. There are 4 outcomes. 4, like you could, 4 events kind of thing. Yeah. So, what is the probability of this happening? Well, first you take heads, and if you took it from the first example, which would be 1 head, it would equal 1 over 2 at first, but then if you took another head, it would be 1 over 2 again. So basically you're adding it. So this would be 1/4, it's a 1/4 chance of happening. And it could either be, so this is why, because heads, you could get heads, you could get heads, tails, you could get tails, heads, or you could get tails, tails. So you could see this is 1 event and there are 4 events in total. So that's why it would be 1 out of 4. And that's what I leave you with. Thank you for joining me on probability.